Cincinnati, Ohio, a city alive with movement, progress, and the daily grind of life. The streets pulse with energy. People in business suits rushed to their next meeting, while baristas poured steaming cups of coffee for exhausted early risers. In the distance, the hum of street performers blended with the honking of impatient taxi drivers. The city had its rhythm, a never-ending cycle of people chasing dreams, responsibilities, and sometimes just survival. But for Daniel Whitaker, life had slowed to a crawl. At 58 years old, Daniel had seen better days. He had once been a respected artist, his paintings displayed in small but prestigious galleries across Ohio. His work captured the essence of the Midwest quiet beauty: rolling wheat fields, the golden glow of sunset over a calm lake, the serenity of an untouched forest. His art spoke to the soul. But fate had been cruel. Just a year ago, Daniel had been diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma, a deadly cancer that threatened to take everything from him. It had started as fatigue. He thought it was just exhaustion, the kind that came with age. Then came the weight loss, the night sweats, the unshakable weakness that settled deep into his bones. Then came the doctor's appointment that changed everything. "We need to act fast," the doctor had told him. "You'll need chemotherapy, radiation, and medication." A fight for his life had begun. But there was a problem. Treatment required money. A lot of money. And Daniel had none. His savings were gone. His insurance? Non-existent. The gallery that once sold his paintings had closed down, leaving him with no steady income. With no other options, Daniel was left with one desperate plan. He would take to the streets and sell his paintings just to survive. Every morning, despite the overwhelming exhaustion in his body, he carried his easel and canvases to Fountain Square, the heart of Cincinnati. He sat in the same spot each day, arranging his paintings carefully, hoping someone would stop, hoping someone would see the beauty he created and offer a lifeline. But the days dragged on. People passed him by, too busy to notice, too distracted to care. Some stopped to admire his work, but few ever purchased. Each unsold painting was another day of pain, another step closer to losing the battle. And then, on one fateful afternoon, a miracle walked into his life. JD Vance had no intention of stopping that day. The best-selling author of Hillbilly Elegy, venture capitalist, and U.S. Senator, Vance was in Cincinnati for a scheduled speaking event. His schedule was meticulously planned, back-to-back meetings, interviews, and policy discussions. There was no room for detours in his tightly packed itinerary. But life had other plans. As he walked through Fountain Square, something made him stop. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way the sun cast a golden glow over the paintings. Maybe it was the emotion in the artwork, a raw, undeniable beauty that seemed to call to him. Or maybe it was fate. Slowing his steps, JD Vance turned toward the display. He wasn't an art collector by any means, but there was something about these paintings, something real. And then he saw the artist. Daniel sat quietly beside his easel. His hands, one steady and strong, trembled slightly. His face was thin, his eyes sunken with exhaustion. Yet, despite the weight of illness pressing down on him, he still had the spirit of an artist. Vance felt something stir within him. Curiosity, concern, compassion. He walked toward Daniel. "Beautiful work," Vance said, admiring a painting of a golden wheat field bathed in soft evening light. Daniel looked up, surprised that someone had stopped, surprised that someone had noticed. "Thank you," he said, his voice hoarse. "Been painting since I was a kid." Vance crouched down, studying the details, the brushstrokes, the colors, the emotion in every piece. "These are incredible," he said. "How long have you been selling here?" Daniel hesitated. He didn't want to sound desperate. He didn't want pity, but he also didn't want to lie. "A few months now," he admitted. Not exactly by choice. Vance frowned. What do you mean? And that's when Daniel told him everything. He spoke about the diagnosis, the overwhelming cost of treatment, the fight against time. He described how every dollar from his paintings went toward chemotherapy, how each unsold piece meant another day without medication. I just need to sell a few more, he said, glancing at an unfinished canvas. Every dollar goes to my chemo. JD Vance was silent for a moment, his mind turning, and then he did something that no one expected. Without a second thought, JD Vance reached into his pocket and pulled out his checkbook. How much do you need for your treatment? He asked, his tone serious. Daniel blinked. He had expected sympathy, maybe a few kind words. He hadn't expected this. I still need about $20,000, he admitted hesitantly. But I don't expect. Before he could finish, Vance was already writing. Seconds later, he tore the check from the book and handed it to Daniel. Daniel took it, his hands trembling. He looked down. $25,000. His breath caught in his throat. His vision blurred with tears. He looked up at Vance, his voice breaking. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Vance replied with a warm smile. Just promise me you'll keep painting. Daniel nodded slowly, clutching the check like it was the most valuable thing in the world. Because it was. It was hope. The moment didn't end there. A bystander had recorded the entire exchange, and within hours, the video went viral. People across the country were moved by the story. Donations began pouring in from strangers who wanted to help Daniel in his fight against cancer. Local businesses offered to display his paintings, and a well-known art dealer reached out, offering him a gallery exhibition. Daniel's story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, kindness could shine through. Within weeks, Daniel's life transformed. He completed his chemotherapy treatments, his health improving with each passing day. His paintings, once ignored, became highly sought after. He was no longer just a man struggling to survive. He was an artist with a second chance at life. And it all happened because one man stopped. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel and JD Vance stayed in touch. Vance, who had always been passionate about helping those in need, found himself inspired by Daniel's resilience. He visited Daniel's studio, where walls were adorned with vibrant landscapes and poignant portraits, each piece a testament to Daniel's enduring spirit. "You've got a gift," Vance told him one afternoon, standing in front of a painting of a stormy sky breaking into sunlight. "The world needs to see this." Daniel smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you." Vance shook his head. "You're here because you fought. I just gave you a little push." Their friendship grew, and Vance became a vocal advocate for Daniel's work. He shared Daniel's story at speaking events, using it as an example of the power of compassion and the importance of supporting local artists. Together, they worked to raise awareness about the struggles faced by uninsured cancer patients, sparking a broader conversation about healthcare reform. Daniel's art exhibition opened to a packed gallery. People from all walks of life came to see the paintings that had captured the heart of a senator and inspired a nation. The centerpiece of the show was a new work, a stunning depiction of Fountain Square, bathed in golden light. With a single figure standing amidst the crowd, a symbol of hope and connection. At the opening, Daniel stood before the crowd, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This exhibition isn't just about my art. It's about the kindness that saved my life. It's about the people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And it's about the power of one moment, one act of compassion, to change everything." JD Vance, standing in the audience, felt a swell of pride. He hadn't set out to be a hero that day in Cincinnati. He had simply followed his heart. But in doing so, he had set off a chain reaction of goodness that touched countless lives. JD Vance never sought publicity for what he had done. To him, it wasn't about politics. It wasn't about headlines. It was about humanity. One man's kindness changed everything. And it all started with a simple walk through Cincinnati. Today, Daniel Whitaker is cancer-free. His paintings hang in galleries across the country, and he continues to create art that inspires and uplifts. He has become an advocate for cancer patients, using his platform to raise funds and awareness for those in need. JD Vance, too, has carried the lessons of that day forward. He often reflects on the power of small acts of kindness, reminding himself and others that even the simplest gestures can have a profound impact. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that in a world often defined by division and struggle, there is still room for compassion, connection, and hope. And sometimes all it takes is one moment, one act of kindness, to change a life forever.